Laura Chrobak. As I said earlier, I'm the MLOps Research Engineer on the FathomNet program. Today, we're talking about data contributions to the FathomNet database, which again is our repository of expertly curated ocean imagery. And we're going to start off by talking about the process of contributing, and then we're going to transition to talking about some challenges with that process and discussing how best we as a community can tackle those challenges. So I think that just from a broad view, ultimately with the FathomNet database, we're hoping to accelerate the analysis of marine visual data at large. So we're trying to create these tools like the FathomNet database, the portal, and Fathomverse, which can train state-of-the-art like machine learning models to automate that process of image processing. And ultimately, we need a really large data sets to make computer vision models that are really effective at doing this automated processing. And that requires more data than any one institution, I would say globally, has individually. And that's why we think setting up this infrastructure like the FathomNet database to collect and aggregate that data is so pivotal for this work. It's essential, I would argue. And to motivate a little bit more about why contributing data can support you, I wanted to point out a few elements of the FathomNet database which help that collaborative research perspective. So for instance, the first is that all data has accreditation. So when you submit your data to the FathomNet database, you have a collection ID, which very prominently displays your institution where the data came from. Soon we will have a DOI with each data set. And so this will facilitate citation and ensuring that when you do upload data, you can track and understand who's using your data, who's accessing it, which I think is really, really quite valuable for research and publication. And then finally, Brian and the folks who really created the framework of the FathomNet database put a lot of effort into making sure that each annotation has tracking history. So every time an edit is made to the annotations in the FathomNet database, that information is stored in terms of who made that change, who created the original annotation. And that's really important for transparency and credit when we're looking at these collaborative data sets. So this is just to give everyone on a really high level the annotation lifecycle process. So ideally, you're starting with an outside annotation tool. I've listed a few here. For instance, Beagle was mentioned, Squiddle Plus, VAR's annotation, which Brian created, Tater, RoboFlow. These are all like visual annotation tools. And the idea is that you take the annotations that you've generated through those tools and upload them into the FathomNet database, which is meant as a lightweight annotation tool where you can refine or add annotations to your existing video data. So for example, you see this image here, and we can maybe add a more specific species level name to an existing annotation through the FathomNet database. This slide is just meant to say that when you're on the FathomNet database, make sure that you log in and create an account and then request permission via our email link there if you're wanting to submit. Those are just two steps that sometimes people miss. And now we're going to go through that process of how to contribute your data. So the first one is making the images public. So the FathomNet database references images using hyperlinks, which means that it does not store, FathomNet database is not storing your data. It's not like you're uploading a copy of your image to the database. What's happening is you use a hyperlink which references your image, which can be stored elsewhere. And Does that make sense? It's kind of sometimes not firsthand to everyone. There are different ways that you can host that data. You can have your own web server. Amazon S3 buckets are an option. And then the really exciting thing is this year, Brian and a lot of folks on our team have put a lot of effort into facilitating a collaboration with NOAA and CEI, wherein they will host your imagery and you can create a hyperlink hosted on their databases. So we have instructions for how to do that there. Can you all see this Medium article? Okay, so I'm going to send this in the chat here, but I think that we're really hoping that this unlocks kind of a critical bottleneck in our pipeline, because I think having access to storage that has longevity is a really critical part of feeling comfortable putting all this effort into collaborative annotation databases, right? Because you want to have some type of assurance that this has longevity, and also it's rather expensive to host your own data. Any questions there? Cool.
Hi.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had a question. I just put it in the chat. How safe are these hosting agreements in the current political climate and all that?
I'm so glad you asked that. Ryan, would you like to contribute to that answer?
I will contribute. That is a great question. And in the current climate, it's hard to say. We do have a backup plan in place, though. If things do fall apart with NCEI, we do have an alternative place to host the data set up.
That's great to hear.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I need to be putting QR codes for this. But we also have this Medium article, which describes the process I'm going to go through right now in detail. So you can follow along visually here if you follow auditory information like I do less well. So essentially, I'm going to walk through what it looks like to structure your data for that submission. So essentially, when you're uploading to the FathomNet database, we ask that you have a CSV file, which is just a text file, comma separated, of specific information regarding the annotations. And I'm going to walk through what that format looks like. It's also in that Medium article. But essentially, you start off with this highlighted left column, which is the concept name of the annotation. So this is, again, the label associated with either, within this case, bounding box localization. And that looks like this here in the center. I think that Kevin mentioned this earlier, but we're hoping to support more types of annotations coming soon. So for instance, we're working on segmentation, allowing for segmentation masks in the FathomNet database. Right now, we do bounding box localizations, but definitely would be curious to hear more from this community if there are, if that's preventative, or if you all would like to see that expand in a specific direction. Then the next column is that image URL link. So this is a hyperlink to the image that this annotation is referencing. And then the coordinates of that bounding box. The coordinates of these bounding boxes, they really vary from platform to platform. So for instance, if you're using Ultralytics, if you're using Cocoa dataset, I'm sure in Beagle and in Squiddle, they all have different ones. It is a little exasperating. This is a very conventional format that we've chosen here, which is the top left corner, XY corner, and then the width and height of the bounding box. So visually what that looks like is, if this is your image and your coordinate system is in the top left corner, and traditionally Y positive points down for image coordinate references. you have your top left coordinate, X, Y, and then your width and your height. And that's how we format the annotations for submission. There are other really great fields in our CSV that we allow for additional context. Brian, would you mind jumping in here and kind of just going over the motivation for some of these?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So we have these other fields that can accommodate different parameters. The alternate concept is a field where let's say you're working with something like a siphonophore, like Nanomia. You say, all right, this whole organism is Nomia, but I really care about the bell, so I might just annotate the nectosome of it. Well, the alt concept allows us to say this animal is Nanomia, that would be the concept. The alt concept is nectosome. It's the part of the organism that's been annotated. Imaging type is a catch-all field. We recognize that there needs to be some way to differentiate it, like black and white images or dark field microscopy or others. So it's a little free form, but allows people to submit the type of image or some other additional information about the image. Observers who actually made the annotation. User-defined key is also a bit of a free-form text field, but what that does is allows you, if let's say you're uploading images from Beagle and you have some unique key for that annotation, you can stick it there, and that way you can tie it back to the source annotation in your particular annotation tool. Time and position is pretty straightforward. This is the time that the image was actually collected in situ, and then the geo coordinates, and altitude is, of course, elevation above the bottom. And then we have other environmental parameters. These are the ones that we support right now. We are willing to support others, but we need feedback from the community on what would be more useful. And then the ML hints, these are standard. If you'll find these in a lot of image sets. So occluded means that I've annotated something, but there's also maybe something in front of it that's occluding part of the organism. A group of, sometimes you may have a whole school of fish, for example. You don't want to annotate every individual one, and some people just say, here's a whole school of some kind of fish. And that's what the group of would be used for. And then truncated is often used if the animal is on the edge of the image and you only have part of the organism.
Okay, so visually what this looks like, additionally, we also have tags, for instance. We're hoping to use this for a specific category of our benchmark data set. But if you in your group had a reason to tag a subset for perhaps a data set that you wanted to make public and easily available for people to grab. So for instance, using the FathomNet Python API, you could search for all of those tags and grab all of those specifically. This allows you to do that. And so I think this would be something that you would communicate with us if you wanted to tag something specifically.
Can I mention something about that, Laura, just to flesh out? Just a note about the tags. If you add any column that's not a standard column, as described in the Medium article that Laura shared, that will become a tag where the key is the column name and the value will be whatever the row value is that you've inserted. And so it allows you to add all kinds of additional information to the image.
Yeah. So what this looks like is if you're on the FathomNet database and you go to My Collections, remember you have to be logged in, so you won't see this if you're not logged in. You go to My Collections, you can add a collection here. Then you'll be brought to this form where you fill out all the Darwin core information about your collection and you upload that CSV file in the format that we just described. And just to go over the importance of this Darwin core information, it standardizes biodiversity data for consistency and interpretability. It facilitates data sharing and integration across projects and enhances discoverability and support for global collaboration. So this is just a standard now, and it's really important that we contextualize all of that for every collection that's uploaded. Then you submit your CSV file and you can see that collection now in your collection grid view. Here's an example of what that might look like with all of your images. If you click into one of those, your annotations will be there. Yeah, so that's essentially the whole process. I'm hoping we can use our last 15-ish minutes to kind of talk about the challenges and have some discussion around how you all experience this or how this might work or not work for you. So if you want to, I've created this Slido poll, and it should be open. So if you can use the URL here, you can go and fill out some of those questions, and maybe I'll give everyone 5 minutes to do that, and then we can review together and kind of discuss what the outcomes of that are. Does that sound good to everyone? Oh, great. While everyone does that, and maybe I'll also, I'll also drop this link in the chat in case it's easier for people to access it this way. And while you all are doing that, I will answer George's question, which is, what if you do not know the concept of the image that you are annotating? That's a great question. So typically we recommend that it's labeled to the highest taxon or the lowest level taxonomic level that you feel comfortable annotating. Brian, is it working okay? Yeah. Okay, great. And so, for instance, you could go up the taxonomic tree as far as you felt comfortable and give a higher level label. You can't submit a blank. You can say something like marine organism, which is accepted in the FathomNet MBARI taxonomy tree. And do you want to add anything to that, Brian?
No, you're covering it. But you have to have something. Object is good, marine organism is good. It could be animalia, whatever appropriate level you can annotate it to. Like if you can identify it as a squid, you can just say it's a squid.
Common names are also accepted. So.
One thing I just wanted to mention too, and I pasted the article to it, if you're uploading your image sets and not just a CSV file, it would be the exact same form that Laura was showing earlier. And just instead of using a CSV file, you would upload a zip file and it would just be seamlessly handled for you.
When you guys are seeing this poll, are you seeing 3 different questions or only one?
I just saw one question.
Huh.
One question.
Interesting. There are meant to be 3. Oh, ooh, okay. Well, now there should be more. Does anyone see another now?
Change to another question.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay, now we'll do this question instead, and we'll do one more, and then we'll all come together. New question is open. I'm new to Slido. Cool. Can I switch to the next? Any objections? Great. One last one. Yay. Okay, great. Let me present the results here. Okay, so can you all see this? For the first question, I laid out a few kind of common issues that we're aware of in terms of challenges for accepting data to FathomNet. So that's data hosting, right? Like storing your data, like I talked about at the beginning, time to prepare the data to be in this expected format. There are lots of different formats, and there's obviously no way that you just happen to have the CSV for FathomNet submission already formatted. Data pre-processing expertise or software tooling, institution level policy constraints, data attribution and data integrity, and the last one was no barriers. So it looks like time and preparation was the largest one. I'd love to kind of hear from some of you guys about who voted for that. Some more detail if you want to share. Go ahead, Bruce. Yeah.
Yeah, we from the Monterey Bay Aquarium, we were uploading images into Tater, and then as people had time, they would go in and annotate them. So none of us that were doing it that process went through and devised something that could be put into a CBS file and uploaded.
Yeah, yeah. I guess exporting from some of those annotation tools into this format is kind of a large body of work in and of itself, is what you're saying, right? I'm cognizant of the time here, but did anyone else want to contribute to that one, since it was our 50% choice highest?
I just want to make a note. I posted in the chat a link to where we collect feedback from the community. So if there are formats that you would like supported, you can submit a request there. And if we have enough consensus, we'll try to add support for it.
In the interest of time, we can go to the next one, which is what are you using currently to annotate your data? And interestingly, some of our top responses were other, and I don't annotate data. Beagle and VARs were up there as well. For those of you that chose other, could you share with us what that is? Go ahead.
I use CoralNet.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind jumping in. I'm currently using VARs, but I know our historical data is in an Access database. It's been uploaded to the national database, but just trying to come up with redundancy of where data goes. I mean, I guess Access could just be exported into a CSV file, but I guess that would have fallen under other that I didn't vote on, just to put that data point out there.
Got it. Thank you. And I see George is using Fishy AI. I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to check that out. Fishial AI. Cool. And then the last question is what types of annotations are we using? It looks like the majority of us are using bounding boxes, a lot of point annotations, which is good to know. It's very interesting. I had never heard of point annotations until I started working in the oceanographic community. So I'm curious, what is attractive about the point over the bounding box as people who are annotating? Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question first. In that, is a bounding box a rectangle, or can it be some other shape? Which leads me to the second question. I chose points as this option because I used ellipses because that approximated the shape of the animals a bit better.
Yeah.
I guess an ellipse is closer to a circle, closer to a point, which is why I picked that, which is why I have the question that does a bounding box necessarily mean a rectangle or something else?
Yes. So to answer your question, a bounding box refers to a rectangle. It has to have that those like 4 coordinates, and then there are straight vertical and horizontal lines between those 4 coordinates. I definitely, like, all of these can kind of be transferred if you can do that processing yourself, right? Like I could take a bounding box and create a centroid of it and make that a point and whatnot. Kaylee, do you have a question?
Not a question, but I just wanted to make a comment on that. We are using event measure software generally to analyze our fish annotation, annotate our browse footage, mostly for fish. And that's what uses the points as well, the point system, but it's only because for no good reason other than that's how it was initially set up 10 years ago, and now people are hesitant to change that. So there's no advantage of using it necessarily. I don't think there's any reason why we can't use bounding boxes, which I think we should, but it's just because it's set up with the software that way, and that's the standardized process at the moment. So yeah, that's what we use, which is a bit challenging now for us, because that's, and then I also chose the time challenge because then we would have to figure out how to convert everything. Yeah.
Right. That totally makes sense. Thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Okay, well, we only have 1 minute here left, and now that minute is gone. So hopefully we can all maybe hop back on the larger call. But I really appreciated everyone's contributions today. We'll send out some of this poll data in case it's interesting to you all. And again, please check out that community feedback if you have follow-up issues that Brian sent out. We're very responsive to that setting. So I'll see you all in the other Zoom meeting.